Hello, hello. Welcome back to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audiovisual Services. And I got to tell you, I'm excited to be back. We had to take a couple of weeks off just due to the craziness of the event season. But here we are, and I have a great guest today. But before we get there, let me tell everybody how you can find us. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. While you're on any of those channels, hit the like and subscribe buttons. Pass it along to some of your friends. I mean, they may need this information. And of course, drop us a comment. This is live, so that's always fun. Drop us a comment, be a part of the show. If you miss anything, you can go back and watch any one of the 124 episodes on YouTube. Afterwards, my friend Alexa is going to chop this thing up a little bit, and I'm sure we'll have something we'll post on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Now, I'm so excited. We got to bring my special guest on today. And she's kind of a neighbor. Little known fact. But either way, let me tell you a little bit about Caroline King. Caroline is a business performance advisor at Insperity. She's an MBA graduate from Quinnipiac who is passionate about empowering individuals through education and professional development. In her free time, she enjoys being with family and friends, traveling, makeup, and baking. In her role at Insperity, she's dedicated to delivering top-notch human capital management strategies and solutions to clients. She brings a wealth of experience in streamlining operations and driving growth for organizations. She serves as a board member for Caring for the Hungry and Homeless of Peekskill and LinkedIn Local Hudson Valley. How are you, Caroline?
Hey, Joe, I'm doing well. How about you? Excited to be here.
Very well, thank you. Excited to have you here.
Awesome.
It's not every day that I get to bring neighbors on.
I know, it's so funny that we live right down the street from each other practically.
And the only way we would know that is by going to networking events and just meeting new people.
100%, yeah.
Well, this is good. I know that you're all over the place, and I'm just happy that you could join us here on AVX Live.
Yeah, I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me, Joe. I was pumped when you reached out and asked me to join as a guest today.
You were the one who connected me with the ChatGPT action figure postings.
Oh my gosh, yeah, those are so fun.
It was super fun.
I thought yours was one of the best ones I saw during that trend too. It was a killer, rock star, if I could say.
I mean, sometimes we rock, that's just the way it goes. But
heck yeah.
So I know that you've done some traveling lately.
I went to Paris actually with my younger cousin, which was a lot of fun.
That is awesome.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, we had a ton of fun. It was probably the most spontaneous thing I've ever done in my life.
Well, there seems to be an HR related incident right now going on at the Louvre.
No way, really?
There is. There's actually a protest from the staff because they say they don't have enough staff for all the tourists. So yesterday they were closed.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
That's
so
crazy.
I didn't know if you had anything to do with this and we're trying to get Insperity in there.
That'd be pretty cool. But no, that's actually really crazy. That's a big move for them to have to close. That's a big HR issue for sure. That's like if, the MoMA couldn't open for the day, or the Museum of Natural History.
It's a pretty big deal. There's no question about that. But, while we're on the subject of Insperity, while I, of course, know Insperity, we have been a client for 20 years at this point. A lot of my audience probably is not very familiar with Insperity. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about the company and about your role there?
Absolutely, yeah. So Insperity is a pretty cool company. I totally fell into working here. I actually worked in the same building and decided that I wanted to meet some other folks in my building purely for networking purposes. Went door to door in my building, which I'm not really sure if it was allowed or not, but Insperity was the first door that I knocked on. And my manager actually came running over. They were all eating lunch, and she was saying to the team, I think somebody's trying to sell us something. And they all ran over. And I got to know the team pretty well there and learn a little bit more about Insperity, because it wasn't something that I had heard of before either, actually. And we really work with small to mid-sized businesses to help them manage the people side of their business, all the HR functions, from payroll, benefits, compliance, 401k, like all of their administrative functions as a business overall. And what's really unique about Insperity is that one of our founders is still the CEO and chairman of our board today. Almost 40 years later, Insperity will be 40 years old next year. He was kind of a serial entrepreneur, started a bunch of businesses in his 20s, and truthfully failed a handful of times, and found that one of the biggest components across the board that was similar in the businesses where he was successful was how he managed his people as he was scaling and growing over time. And so we figured there had to be a better way for businesses to be able to manage that. Because if not, you're growing, you're scaling. And I'm sure you're familiar, Joe, right? Like, you maybe end up spending more time in the business than on the business and helping it grow. And that's, for the most part, not why people get into business or start a business. It's something they're passionate about, they're excited about, they enjoy doing. And so they want to still be able to do that and not have all of their hands in an administrative bucket, and it just falls on them eventually, right, as you grow and scale.
Found it to be a great way to focus on the work and, on our clients, because there are a lot of administrative regulations and rules and laws that I just can't keep up with. So.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm very happy and grateful to have Insperity as part of our team.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah.
Now, without naming names, of course, clients maybe at Insperity, or how do you have the most impact?
So I would say that we typically work with businesses between like 5 to 150 employees. Our average client size is around 30 employees, but we work with startups. We work with businesses upwards of 5,000 employees as well. And oftentimes those organizations where they're growing quickly, they're spending more time on HR issues than actually growing their business. That's really where we come in and make an impact. Because they maybe have a realization, typically somewhere around 20 to 30 employees, sometimes a little bit higher, even 50, where they recognize, hey, we need help putting out some fires, or we need to understand the compliance, or there has to be a structure to prevent this happening in the first place. And that's really what Insperity does, is have this, call it proactive HR model for our clients.
So that's good. And we fall into, I think, the group that you guys really have a lot of success with. So
you definitely do. Yeah.
But, just to go a slightly different direction, I see you at a lot of different meetings. But I think maybe one of the first ones that I got to meet you at was the LinkedIn local networking event. So how did you first get involved in that group?
Yeah, so I first got involved with the LinkedIn local group really out of curiosity. I had a couple people mention it to me. A friend of mine who I think was in a Master Networks chapter with Pasquale, and he was like, we should go. Let's go together. And it was the first one that they were having in person again post-pandemic. So LinkedIn Local had started in, I think, 2019 or 2018. If I'm wrong, Pasquale will tell me. But they had a couple, and then the pandemic hit. So they paused, restarted, and I went to the first one post-pandemic in 2021. And it was really energizing. It wasn't just networking. It was really intentional networking and community building. And I didn't feel like people were throwing business cards in my face or just giving me their pitch. It was a very different face-to-face real connection. So I continued to go, and that was kind of the beginning of getting involved there, which is pretty cool because I had no idea what it would become.
Well, it's funny because I think I'm in a certain demographic that still doesn't totally understand TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. They're a little foreign in many regards. However, most of the people that I know understand LinkedIn. I know there's more of a twist now. Like LinkedIn's changed over the last few years. Maybe you could tell us, how has LinkedIn changed a little bit over the last 2 years?
It's a good question. It's definitely evolved a lot over the past few years. I'll agree with you there. I feel like it used to very much be a place that was just call it digital resume. It was a part of your digital footprint, but more on a professional side, more of like a resume that is on the internet for anybody to find and for recruiters to find you or salespeople to find you or you to just connect with other professionals, right? I think now it's a place where you can share your voice, share your ideas, build a community that's really authentic to you and who you're engaging with and who you want to get to meet. And it's really not about being perfect or always being professional. It's about being you, being real, bringing an aspect of education and value to others that I think is different from a lot of other platforms that we look at today. And it's evolved in a way where they have videos now and you don't really use hashtags as much unless you're trying to be able to filter and search those later on. Whereas I think it was very much a platform that people weren't as active on, and people still aren't. I think last I had looked it up, only 1% of people that have a LinkedIn account are actually active and posting on there. So there's a lot of opportunity for it to still evolve and change and grow.
Wow. That's just 1%. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I agree with you though. That was very much like a resume, like, that's where you started. You put your resume out there. You're trying to find a job. You're trying to find a candidate. Like it definitely had that vibe coming in. But now it does feel more like it's kind of crossed into what Facebook used to be a little bit of, but yet there's also current information, and it's definitely evolved as it's gone along. And I think it's more interesting.
I agree for sure. And it's cool because it's a place where you can build a community and a personal brand that is true to you as an individual, regardless of where you work or what you do. You don't just have to post content that is relevant to what you do. I think a lot of people post stuff that is fun or travel or connecting with other people. It's a place where you can really be real and be yourself.
No, that's an excellent point. You mentioned building a brand. How does a person build a personal brand? And I guess, some of my thoughts are you building, how much is a personal brand? How much is a company brand? I guess I just have a whole bunch of questions, in a professional environment, how much should you show? How much vulnerability, right? Because it comes from this other place that was just, I do this. And now it's a much bigger perspective.
Yeah. I think that there's space for both. your personal brand and your company brand, or, you know, if it's a company that you work for or a company that you own, regardless, right? They should support each other and support one another. And I think that we're seeing that more and more generationally as well, because I know for me personally, my generation, they are saying that it's very important to us that we figure out a way for work to fit into our life. Whereas historically, you know, older generations very much felt that my life needs to fit into my work. And so those have to really align. And I think that what is really cool about that is people want to work with people. So in sharing your story, your perspective, even the messy moments, or when, you know, you thought you were going to have a new client and you don't, or you show up to an event and maybe you're underdressed and you're embarrassed, or whatever it might be, you're building trust and you're showing that you are a person just like every other individual. So of course there's a line, but I've found that, you know, the more I show up as myself, the more people reach out and say that they feel seen, or they're, you know, understood, or they'll come up to me at events because they might not know me, but they know me from my brand and from my LinkedIn, and they'll say, hey, I don't follow you, or maybe I do follow you, or I saw you're connected with this person and I see you pop up on my LinkedIn all the time, irregardless of if they know who I am or not, or what I do, which is cool because that's a part of building your brand and sharing a little bit about what you do, who you are, and your company. And that all really should align, right? That's going to drive your work.
Well, it's interesting you've been able to use it as a conversation starter because they didn't know you before, but now they're kind of seeing you out there. And I guess it's now you can actually tell them what you do.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Now, I know I was looking earlier and I see you have over, 5,000 followers on LinkedIn. I think I have 10. I mean, tell me about the results since you started this path, because it feels like it's been an active thing that you've been trying to do.
It absolutely is. And it's funny because I actually took a course in college. It was a required course through our School of Business, and it was a career and personal development course that we were required to take in order to graduate. And one of the assignments in that class that you're graded on is building a LinkedIn profile. And I actually got pretty into it. I thought it was cool. It was interesting. It was different than other social media platforms. And I've always been a pretty career driven and just busy person. I like doing things. But I just started to post on there randomly. And my goal by the senior year of college actually was to have 500 connections. And once you hit that 500 connections mark, it'll show you that you have over 500 plus connections. And it won't show you how many connections you have. But for me, it felt like a ticker, or some level of meaning or significance was there. So it's brought in business for sure. I have people that reach out to me. I have people that recognize me. It's also just a matter of building a network of people that I know that trust me. And I've gotten speaking opportunities, referrals, new connections, even reconnected with old people. I have folks that look at my profile that maybe I went to high school with, or maybe I used to swim with when I was younger, or went to elementary school with. And I typically reach out to whoever I see looks at my profile, just because it's cool to engage with people. And I like to see what brought them to my profile. And actually the algorithm will push your content out to them more a little bit too. Fun fact. But it was cool to be able to have that boost of confidence from just showing up consistently. And I've been posting every single day since the start of this year. I did a cohort with Darren McKee. He teaches social selling on LinkedIn. And that really pushed me to want to be more consistent with it too. So it's been fun.
Well, our friend Cameron says you do a great job with being consistent. So,
Thanks,
and
Cameron.
he's pretty good. He's pretty good at LinkedIn himself.
He is. He's definitely consistent. And he is someone that I enjoy engaging with on the platform too. It's fun.
Plus, he's always got a pink tie.
I know he's really consistent with his brand, his company, and his personal, right? They totally align, and there's something to be said about that for sure. It helps you have a memory of that person. And Maggie Carey too, right? Like always wearing her purple. She's the purple person, the purple lady. Everybody knows her brand is purple. And for those that don't know, they are both folks that I also know through LinkedIn Local Hudson Valley.
No, you're right. It's so interesting how many different people you can touch. Engaging. Do you think it's helped you build clientele?
It has, yeah. I've had a handful of people actually reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then because I reach out to everybody that looks at my profile, I've been able to have some cool conversations with folks that either use competitors of Insperity or hadn't heard of Insperity, had never heard of. So Insperity is what's considered a PEO, which I know you know this, Joe, but for those out there, essentially we operate as a professional employer organization. So that's what PEO stands for. And it's evolved into this industry now, but 40 years ago, it wasn't what it is today. And that was what our founder helped to create 40 years ago when he created this model. It's also known as co-employment. And the idea is that we are really sharing in the risk of your business and helping with the administrative side of things. So, and Insperity is a little different in comparison to some other PEOs where we're actually the sponsor of the benefit plans. So we are like the third largest purchaser from United Healthcare directly. So all of our clients use United Healthcare, and we have probably 500,000 lives on our health insurance plan at any given time. So we're pulling together all of our clients. We do the same thing with their workers' comp, their 401k, their dental vision, if they want to offer that, all of those moving parts of their business. So they don't have to manage all of those administrative functions. They're essentially able to offload them all to us. And then they're also getting some help from a compliance standpoint. They'll get an HR generalist, a service team. And since I talk about that on my LinkedIn, people are intrigued and want to know more. And not everybody knows about PEO. It's definitely more common in New York State than other states because New York State is a, how do I put this nicely? Funky state when it comes to rules, regulations, and compliance. I would say New York and California are probably the two most funky, most challenging, and fun.
It's a complex work environment. Yes.
Yeah.
No question about that. Well, that's good. And I would imagine that, if some of these engagements are generating other benefits, like speaking, right? Like being a guest speaker, or, I would think that puts you in a position as an expert then. And that probably helps with, driving your professional life as well as all the other pieces to your life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I definitely find that I've been able to have more opportunities to connect with others, speak at events, or just even get invited to certain events because people know who I am because of my personal brand on LinkedIn.
Well, you are consistent. There's no question about that. Could you tell me a little bit about caring for the hungry and homeless? I don't know much about that organization.
Absolutely, yeah. So they are a nonprofit in Peekskill, 200 North Water Street. And I actually used to fundraise for them when I was in high school. And my church used to do a homelessness awareness sleep out through our youth group. And so every year that I was in high school, freshman all the way through to senior year, I, with my youth group through my church, would sleep outside in a cardboard box in December. So we did it in the cold, and we would stay outside over 24 hours, maybe not really at the 48-hour mark, but we would raise awareness for homelessness and raise funds. And somehow it became my job to manage all of the money that we were collecting. And I was able to get our church to give us one room that we could unlock and have access to, so we could keep all the funds in there, and basically created this big Excel spreadsheet on a chalkboard. And by the time I graduated, the last night that I had done the sleep out, we raised over $8,000 in just under 48 hours for CHOP, which was really cool. And it was also just an eye-opening experience to, understand the conditions that folks live in, right? I mean, living in Westchester, a lot of us are privileged there, but there's still poverty. There's a lot of wealth in Westchester, but there are still people that are struggling and, living in a homelessness and in poor conditions and are living paycheck to paycheck. That was actually what made me want to go to school to study business. I wrote my college essay on the impact that had on me, and how I learned that one thing that I think really struck a chord for me, a lot of, at least in our community, but in general, a lot of the homeless population is veterans, which just absolutely broke my heart. It blew my mind at, the age of 13, 14. And that was when I felt that it was important to be able to use my education in a way to help other people, to help businesses, to help communities, which is why I think I've aligned with Insperity. But then I have been working at Insperity, became involved with the Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber, and Cynthia Knox, who's the CEO of CHOP, was sharing about the turkey trot.
Look around at how many people, how many different parts of the community, close and far, are here today.
Which is one of their big fundraisers around Thanksgiving. I put together the connection in my head that, oh my God, that she's the CEO of CHOP. And so I went and introduced myself to her, and I was like, hey, I know you have no idea who I am, but I think that you guys are an incredible organization. I actually wrote my college essay on CHOP and fundraised for you all through Holy Name of Mary and Croton. And her and I were able to connect. And funny enough, the woman who was the religious education, I don't remember the right name, but she organized all of our religious education classes at our church. She's also a part of the Hudson Valley Gateway Chamber. So she was there too, which was really cool and super full circle, because she's involved with CHOP as well. So it really felt like almost like coming home in a sense. And it's been really cool to be involved with their organization, because they do a lot of great work. And they're I think they're the only shelter in all of Northern Westchester.
Wow. I wasn't familiar with them. And here they are right down the street.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now, are you able to use any of your LinkedIn presence in order to help them?
Yeah. I definitely, make sure that it's on my page, that I'm on their board. And, I'm planning on posting a lot when we have the turkey trot in the fall, for sure. Right. And then just, sharing as I can about things that they're doing and their mission, and, working towards making sure that everybody has safe, affordable housing, healthy, nutritious food, because they also have Fred's Pantry. They actually have 7 different programs that they run. But Fred's Pantry is farm to table. So they get all of their food at the pantry from local farms, to make sure that folks have fresh food and nutrients and really healthy, nutritious food, because it makes an impact on your well-being, right?
Absolutely. No, that's amazing. I love it. I love what you're doing. I love that you're involved in the community and just trying to help people. And it does make sense. That's probably why you aligned with Insperity, because it really does kind of fit your personality and who you are.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that.
So how does someone like me who might be challenged in the social area improve my LinkedIn? Just give me a couple of free tips. Let's go. I mean, you got to help me out.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, make your profile fun, right? Especially if you work at like a big organization. I know for me, right, like Insperity has probably 500, 600 other people in my role. So I want people to come to my page and see that it's different. So I have Legos as my header. I share a little bit about that in my about section. And I use all of those different sections really intentionally. So build out an about section. You can add some things that are featured, whether that is just personal stuff that's fun, a part of your brand. So like even you, Joe, I'm sure you posted about like your anniversary party for corporate AV. Pin that on your featured section, highlight your business and highlight what you guys do. And that all ties to your personal brand and your company brand, right? Being active on LinkedIn, honestly, so this is a little bit contradictory, but I actually find that I get more engagement and more views and impressions on my comments that I leave on other people's posts in comparison to actually posting myself. I post every day because it's something that I've committed to and it's fun for me. I enjoy it. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't do it. But posting on other people's content actually will draw more impressions to your page and your content typically.
I wouldn't have known that. That's really cool.
So I aim to make at least 50 to 60 comments a week, like bare minimum. So I try to log on to LinkedIn in the morning and at night, and then sometime in the middle of the day, just to leave a couple comments, even if it's 1, 2, but be intentional about them. And the LinkedIn algorithm actually changes like 17 times a day, I think. So anybody that says, oh, the algorithm says this, the algorithm says that, maybe a little bit to a degree, but there's no secret code to the algorithm really. But who you comment on and who you're engaging with is how LinkedIn figures out the type of people that it'll push out content to you. So for me personally, I try to definitely engage with the people that I know because I want to support them, right? But also being intentional about commenting on business owners' posts, CFOs, COOs, kind of people in those fractional roles, HR teams as well, because those are the people that I want to engage with that probably will engage with my content. So those are the folks that I try to be intentional about commenting on, because that's how LinkedIn will start to feed me other things over time that I might want to engage with or people I might want to connect with.
That's actually really helpful. When I started on LinkedIn, if there was someone I thought that like I competed with, I would not connect with them. And I think that perspective is completely gone at this point. Like that was so closed, but it just came from a traditional kind of business mindset. And it's really very different now. And so I think it's kind of interesting. So even just hearing like make your profile fun, because I don't think that's what people were kind of started with, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of how the platform has really evolved, right? Is seeing those changes of people being fun and speaking to their personal brand as well as their company's brand or their professional brand that they're building. It should be aligned all across the board, whether you're posting on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is. And I know for me, I'm not so much posting professional content on some of those other platforms. My Instagram is totally just personal stuff, and that's my preference. But maybe I'll post on there more at some point, and it's different for everybody. You figure out what works for you.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Well, I've asked you a lot about Insperity. I've asked you a lot about LinkedIn. Really what I want to know is about the baking. I mean,
Okay.
Can you tell me what it is you like to bake? I mean, are you any good? You know, what are we talking about here?
So I'm not a great cook, which I am the first to admit. My mom, my dad, my brother are all really, really good cooks. I grew to love baking because of my grandmother, my dad's mom. Her and I were super, super close. She passed away when I was 13, but I used to bake with her all the time, and we would bake cream puffs, and my brother and I actually still have her box of recipes, like the old school little, I think she bought like a Betty Crocker box that had all of so we have all of those and all of her written recipes. So every once in a while we pick one to do for fun, for sure. And then our personal favorites and kind of our, call it family favorite, what we're known for in a way, my friends and family will request from us, is her cheesecake and her carrot cake, are probably the top two. And then my dad and I actually found this chocolate cake recipe that is pretty unique, and it is like the most moist, I know some people hate that word, but moist chocolate cake I've ever had. And I think that chocolate cake can be hard. I think what differentiates this chocolate cake is you actually have to boil the hot water before you put it in. I don't know what it does, but it makes the actual batter a lot more liquidy. And it's top notch. But the carrot cake and the cheesecake are the best. I'll have to make it for you sometime.
I like where this is going. I really do. I think that's what I was trying to get to anyways, was, you know, how
let me
this
know
is going
which
to
one
benefit
you
me.
prefer out of the three, and I'll bring you one.
That's great. Well, listen, Caroline, this has been really helpful. A lot of information. You know, of course, you're doing great things with Insperity. Insperity helps a lot of small businesses and really navigate the fields of HR and how they can best, you know, support their staff and their employees and create their, you know, work families. But I think what you're doing on LinkedIn is really good. And, you know, as you're very consistent, and I know I'm learning all sorts of things every time I tune in. So thank you for all the tips and work you've been doing.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Joe. And thanks for having me. This was a ton of fun.
Absolutely. You know, and I'm glad that you can sit in as the host. Thing's been hanging on by a thread the whole time. Like teetering right on the edge.
I can come back on.
I've had less than like one bar of service the entire time. So
it's insane.
It's just the way it goes sometimes. But
yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to tie you up too much. Thank you again, Caroline. I really appreciate everything that you've been doing.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Joe.
All right. We'll talk soon. Well, that was amazing. I mean, Caroline's got so many great ideas and just different thoughts about how she's using LinkedIn. And she really has built up a personal brand at the same time that she's been building her company's brand. And it's given her access to just such a wide variety of opportunities. And so I'm really glad she got to join us today. So listen, let's wrap this thing up. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube Wednesdays, 1 o'clock. While you're there, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And, you know, you share those links out. I mean, we got to get out to everybody. We appreciate all the comments. Thank you, Cameron, for being a part of today's show. And you can find this episode and the other 123 on our YouTube channel. So listen, thank you again, everybody. It is time to go. So listen, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.